We're here with Golden Gate Warlock, aka Wally, and it is training session number 3 in the cooler lunge. And today we are working firstly on the long reins in the cooler lunge with the preparation to ride. So I've put the cooler lunge on over the saddle. It just makes things quicker and easier basically. So I don't use a regular roller girth. Well, I don't use a regular roller girth most of the time because they don't fit my horses. So I just find a longer girth and put it on over the saddle. I've just put a little sheet on over the saddle to protect it because the saddle is brand new. So because Wally's not that great at turning, I'm just warming him up in the walk by doing some small figure of eights before I move him forward into trot. So he's still wanting to be on that left shoulder more than the right shoulder, which makes it easier for him to travel to the left. And you can see that he is moving more freely on the circle today. He's starting to round up and get connected. I still left the side reins that little bit longer because I'm not too concerned about getting him to actually absolutely work on the bit. As long as he's working in a frame where he can comfortably carry his riders and he lightens up on the shoulders or the thoracic sling, which will then make him easier to steer. That's my main goal for this horse. He does have that little bit of a shorter neck as well, so leaving the side reins a little bit longer does encourage him to reach for that contact rather than shortening the neck and frame. So you can see he is turning better and he's definitely travelling forward better than our previous training sessions. So the better he travels on the long reins, the more correctly he travels on the long reins, the more correctly he's then going to travel under saddle. So if he's not responding to my voice commands on the long reins or not wanting to go forward on the long reins, then he's definitely not going to want to go forward under saddle. So we are looking for that ground cover and that freedom of movement. And also looking for him to travel evenly in both directions. So that means he's travelling on the same size circle in both directions, not doing a larger circle on one side and then a smaller circle on the other side, which would then, he would then be travelling not straight again and developing the muscles unevenly. So once he is travelling forward more freely, my next goal is to then be able to do some changes of direction on the long reins in trot. So in our previous training sessions, he was not maintaining the trot through the change of direction. So that because he is, excuse me, falling on the inside shoulder, and so he's not able to maintain the engagement from behind. And so he just goes back into walk, and also because he's behind my voice commands. So you can see now he's just done a couple of very good changes of direction, maintaining an even rhythm and tempo, which is a huge improvement, aided of course because he is helping to be balanced by the side reins and the hindquarter sling of the cooler lunge, which does actually rotate with him to allow him to comfortably change flexion and bend for the change of direction. After warming up Wally on the long reins, I am now having a short ride on him. I have moved him around in both directions in walk, just on the circle to begin with, and I'm now going to do some transitions from trot to walk and then back to trot again to try and encourage him to be thinking more forward, because he's still very much behind my leg and not wanting to maintain any pace. So whether it be walk or trot, I'm finding I'm having to be quite firm with my leg aids to continuously encourage him to go forward. So this is something that the new owners have inherited. I feel like he just hasn't had a lot of work under saddle and hasn't been taught to go forward without being constantly prodded. Now this is a trap that you can fall into, and the horse can stay like this because the rider just feels like they've just got to keep asking and asking and asking. So with this type of horse, what you need to do is try and be a little bit quieter with your leg aids and then shock them. So I will let him go until he slows down, and then I'll use a firmer leg aid and kick him up, and then be quiet with my leg aids again, because I found using my alternate leg aids in walk, so as the left hind leg takes a step forward, then the right hind leg takes a step forward to close each leg, wasn't really working because he's not that responsive at this stage. The other factor which is inhibiting him going forward and then maintaining that forward pace is the fact that he's still not that straight. So he's still wanting to lead with that left shoulder. And so once a horse isn't straight, they're losing power. And then he is still travelling on the forehand, which also makes it more difficult to steer him. So once he shifts that weight back, lifts up the thoracic sling, he will become easier to steer, because you need to remember, you can turn the head and neck, but the shoulders need to follow the head. So if he's wanting to travel in one way with the shoulders, it doesn't matter how much I turn that head and neck, I need those shoulders to follow. So you'll see there he's really falling out of the outside shoulder, and then he just lays on the rail on the way up and uses that rail for balance. This is why I'm doing some frequent changes of direction, riding across the diagonal, riding through the middle of the circle to get him off that rail so he can learn to travel forward without the aid of a fence to follow. So this is just a brief part of our training session today, but it covers the main factors of what we were working on in our training session. So if you found this helpful, please subscribe to our channel, Cooler Lunge, and follow us so you can follow Wally's training progress.